The other thing I've seen is fairly crude fiber that reminds me of the crude Russian stuff that I bought in '87 that's been not retted in water, but retted on the ground. It's called dew retting, and it's pretty hard to get. See, there's a little piece of stalk in the fiber. It's pretty hard to get good control when you ret it on the ground. Not impossible, but usually dew retted is much more crude. Like the Kentucky hemp that I was talking about that wasn't so great, it was dew retted, much easier. You just plop it on the ground, you pick it up. It's not nearly this nice. It's usually more mildewed looking than that, but this is what you get. At some point, if you pick it up at the right time, you just let the weather work on it, and then you pull the fiber off when it's, falling off anyway. So that's the Canadian stuff I saw. So there's not much of a future for that because there's so much work to improve on that. They need to do a better job of retting or something. I don't know, but I'm no expert on what they're doing. But as I said this before, it's going to be pretty hard to compete with this stuff because the price is so low for really clean and reasonably strong fiber. So this is Chinese. Yeah, they're getting the corner on the market in the solar panels and the hemp. Now, what did I say? Hemp and flax. Now, who's starting to dominate in both areas? The Chinese. Well, from my reading in textile, I think what they're doing is the Germans discovered this process of softening hemp and flax fiber, and they called it cottonizing, and it's enzyme retting. And that's what the Chinese are doing. And it's cheaper, quicker, cleaner. But at least the way they're doing it, they're not having the ultimate result. In other words, their fiber is not what you'd call traditional, really good, strong hemp and flax. But it's pretty good, though. It's not that it's so useless. It's a whole lot better than that second cut cotton that I was talking about. It's worlds better than that stuff. So, it's all on the scale, and I kind of know what flax and hemp can be all by itself, and this is so different from all the flaxes and hemp that I'd experienced up until the Chinese stuff that I was kind of caught unaware, and it's something you got to figure out. Now, when your grandfather or great-grandfather said his Levi's used to last a long time, and you go, oh yeah, right. Well, at some point, Americans are so easy to fool. This is another example. We sent our staple fiber, which is, if you've ever seen cotton balls, there's a big wad of almost pure cellulose, and you pick that out and you get the seeds out. And that stuff we've been sending to India and Ireland for 30, 40 years. I don't know exactly what year that started, but I've seen it in print. Not many people want to talk about that, but our domestic cotton is the puny, teensy-weensy hairs that are left over on the seeds. So they're very short fiber, and that's our domestic cotton. Now, Levi's used to be made out of what's called staple fiber, the long cotton fiber. But somebody got the bright idea that they could make a lot more money selling that stuff to India and Ireland, and the Americans, they'll go for the little tiny seed hairs. That'll be good enough for those guys. And that's when the Levi's started not lasting nearly as long as they used to. So anyway, the Canadians are building these overalls, which I haven't seen, I've heard of. I know somebody that has some and says they're really great, so we'll see. Yeah, I talked about the Bluegrass Craftsman, the Kentucky paper maker. And he was using hemp tow from the slaves to make paper. In the off season, he went on the road. He had his own handmade sandpaper and bonnet boxes made from hemp and, thick hemp paper. And he made the statement about he had a canvas on his wagon and it was hemp linen. And then when he was describing the wagon, he said, don't you know it was homespun? So you see the connotation. What hemp and homespuns have we swaggering here? Crude, rustic, lower class, which was most of us in the old days. So you see all the reasons why hemp has been getting a bad rap. And it's only in modern times in places like the Orient. Let's say I read about a habit in Japan. They revere hemp fiber because that was their original big hot fiber before silk came in. And same with the Chinese. Before a Japanese lady could get married, she had to grow, process, spin, and weave her own hemp kimono. And by that time, she could get married. And there's other tales of Chinese hemp worship through the language, and that was their oldest main fiber, and they still revere it to a certain degree, whatever lived through the Cultural Revolution and all the modern blaspheming of hemp. So, but they're growing it now in a big way, so they must like it again. So actually, if we study the hemp plant and all the claims of certain science, you can see how it's another downtrodden. Grandpa, why didn't you guys grow a lot of hemp earlier when you already knew how good it was? Well, it's hard to understand. But a lot of people didn't like hemp. It had a lot of enemies because it was so easy and so good.